It started like any other day. I had my books in my hand, and 100 things on my mind. The wind was soft. The sky was quiet. And for a moment, life felt calm. I wasn't popular. I wasn't the type of girl people followed or talked about. But that never bothered me. I liked being invisible. It felt safe. I had my routine. Library. Lecture. Home. Repeat. No drama. No risks. No noise. And for a long time, I believed. If you keep your world small, no one can hurt you. But that day, something was already on its way to break that belief. I just didn't know it yet. Her name was Lila. She sat 2 rows behind me in class. Always laughing, always surrounded by people. I didn't think she even knew my name. Until one day, she did. It was during a group assignment. The teacher paired us together. I remember how nervous I felt. She was confident, pretty, loud. And I was just me. But to my surprise, she smiled and said, "You're quiet. I like that." We started talking. Little things at first. Books. Music. Teachers we both didn't like. She was warm. Easy to talk to. And in a strange way, I felt seen. For the first time, someone like her wanted to know someone like me. And slowly, without knowing it, I let my walls come down. We started spending more time together. In class. At lunch. Even after lectures. She would message me funny memes, send voice notes, and tell me things she said she never told anyone. She talked about her childhood, her fears, her past relationships. And I listened, quietly, the way I always do. It felt good. To be trusted. To feel like I mattered. One day, she looked at me and said, "You're the only real one here. Everyone else is fake." I didn't say much. I just smiled. But inside, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Safe. Maybe I had finally found a friend. Someone who saw me, not for what I showed, but for who I was underneath. And without realizing it, I started to believe she would never hurt me. It was a rainy afternoon. The kind of day when everyone just wanted to go home. But she stayed behind, just like me. We were sitting under the old staircase, sharing a bag of chips and stories about our worst teachers. She laughed so hard, she almost choked. And then suddenly, she went quiet. She looked at me and said, "You always listen to everyone. But no one really listens to you, do they?" I froze. Because she was right. No one had ever said it out loud before. She leaned closer, her voice softer now. "If you ever need to talk about anything, I swear, I'm here." And in that moment, something inside me shifted. I had carried that secret for years. Locked it deep, behind every smile I faked. But that day, sitting beside her, in the quiet, with rain tapping against the windows. I started thinking, maybe I could finally say it. Maybe it was safe now. I don't know why I said it. Maybe it was the way she looked at me. Like I mattered. Like she wouldn't judge me. Or maybe I was just tired. Tired of holding it in. Tired of pretending like everything was okay. So I told her. Slowly. Carefully. Like I was handing her a fragile glass that had already cracked once before. I told her the one thing I swore I'd never say out loud. The thing I never even told my closest cousin. The thing that kept me up at night. Her eyes didn't blink. She didn't interrupt. She just listened. And when I finished, there was a long silence. Then she placed her hand on mine and said, "Thank you for trusting me." I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I finally felt free. What I didn't know was that freedom had a price, and I was about to pay it. The next day felt lighter. Like I had taken off a heavy backpack I'd worn for years. I walked through the halls differently. Not louder, not braver. Just a little less afraid. When I saw Lila in class, she smiled at me. That same soft smile from yesterday. And before the lecture began, she leaned over and whispered, "Your secret is safe with me. I swear on my life." I nodded, thankful. Relieved. She didn't have to say it. But hearing those words made me trust her even more. And for the first time in a long time, I stopped checking over my shoulder. I stopped imagining the worst. Because I believed her. I truly did. It was 2 days later when I felt it. Not a scream. Not a shock. Just something quiet. Something small. Like a whisper behind my back that wasn't there before. I was walking into the cafeteria when a girl from another class looked at me. Then quickly turned to her friend and laughed. I froze. Not sure why that bothered me. People laughed all the time. But something about the way they looked at me felt wrong. I brushed it off. Told myself I was overthinking, like I always do. But then it happened again. At the library. At the vending machine. Even on the bus. Eyes. Whispers. Half smiles that didn't feel kind. I tried to ignore it. Tried to convince myself it was just in my head. But deep down, a quiet voice had already started to speak. What if she told someone? That evening, I saw her again, Lila. She was sitting on the campus steps with a group of friends. Laughing loudly, like nothing in the world could touch her. I walked past them slowly. And for a second, I hesitated. She looked up. Our eyes met. And just like always, she smiled. That soft, friendly smile. Like everything was fine. Like she still had my trust in her hands. I wanted to believe it. I really did. So I smiled back. But inside, something didn't feel right. Maybe it was the way one of her friends glanced at me. Too quickly, too knowingly. Or the way her laugh suddenly dropped the second I passed. But I told myself again. She promised. She swore. She wouldn't do that to me. I wanted to hold on to that thought. Even though deep down, a storm was already on its way. The next morning felt different. Not the weather. Not the classes. Just everything. As I walked through the college gates, I could feel it, like a weight in the air. Heavy. Unspoken. Two girls walking past me suddenly stopped talking. One of them looked at me, smirked, then leaned in to whisper something in the other's ear. I heard my name. Just once. But that was enough. I kept walking. Faster. Heart pounding. Trying to convince myself it was nothing. Until I stepped into the hallway. And saw it. A group of students huddled around a phone. Laughing. Whispering. One of them looked up, saw me. And nudged the others. They all turned. And everything went quiet. That's when I knew. Something had changed. And I was the reason why. I kept my head down. Walked straight to class. Pretending I didn't notice. But I did. Every look. Every laugh. Every half-turned face as I passed. I sat in my usual seat. Hoping the silence would swallow me whole. But it didn't. Two boys behind me started whispering. Too loudly to be an accident. Is it true? Can't believe she'd hide something like that. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. Then I heard a girl near the window say my name. Not loudly, but just enough. She looked so normal though. I gripped the sides of my chair. The words were floating everywhere. But no one said them to my face. It was worse that way. Because now, everyone knew something. And I was the only one. Pretending they didn't. I tried to make it through the class. Tried to keep my eyes on the board. But I couldn't hear a single word. All I could hear were them. The whispers. The giggles. The way they looked at me. Not with curiosity, but with judgment. Then it happened. Right as class ended. I stood to leave. And a voice from behind said. Just loud enough to pierce the air. Hey, is it true? Did that really happen to you? I froze. I didn't turn around. I didn't answer. I just stood there. Feeling every eye in the room land on me like a spotlight. No one said a word after that. They didn't have to. Because in that one moment, the secret I buried, the one I trusted her with, was no longer mine. And there was no way to take it back. I rushed out of the classroom. I didn't look at anyone. Didn't care if they were staring. I just needed to get away. Anywhere quiet. Anywhere safe. My feet took me to the only place I could think of. The far end of campus, the empty restroom behind the old library. I locked the door. Leaned against the wall. And slid to the floor. My hands were shaking. My chest was tight. My breathing, short and uneven. And then I cried. Not the soft kind. Not the quiet, polite tears people expect from girls like me. I broke. Right there on the cold tile floor. Everything I held in for so long. Everything I trusted her with. Everything I tried to protect. It was all out there now. Mocked. Twisted. Shared. And I couldn't undo it. No matter how tightly I held my knees. No matter how hard I tried to disappear. It was already too late. After a while, the tears stopped. But the pain didn't. I sat there in silence. Staring at the floor. Until I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. A message. From a classmate I barely knew. Hey, is this about you? There was a screenshot. A blurred out name. But the words were mine. My story. My truth. Word for word. Posted in a group chat I wasn't even part of. Circulated. Talked about. Turned into a joke. And under it. Laughing emojis. Comments. One even said. No wonder she's always so quiet. Yikes. I just stared at the screen. Frozen. It wasn't just whispers anymore. It wasn't just stares in the hallway. It was everywhere. And the worst part. I still didn't know how many people had seen it. Or how many more would. But deep down, I already knew who started it. My fingers were trembling as I typed. I didn't want to believe it. Even after everything. Some part of me still hoped it wasn't her. That maybe someone overheard us. Maybe it was just a sick coincidence. Maybe she was still the friend I thought she was. So I messaged her. Did you tell someone? I stared at the screen. Every second felt like a year. Then the typing bubble appeared. And her reply came. What? No. Of course not. I'd never do that. Another message followed immediately. Why would you even think that? I swear on my life. I wanted to believe her. So badly. Because if it wasn't her, then I still had someone on my side. But then I saw it. One of the comments on the screenshot. It said, Lila told me this in class yesterday. I didn't think it was real. And that was it. The mask fell. The truth hit. She lied. And I was the fool who trusted her. The next morning, I walked into class like a ghost. Not because I was brave, but because I had no more tears left to cry. The room felt colder. Not because of the weather, but because of the silence. No one said anything. No one smiled. No one even looked me in the eye. But I could feel it. The shift. The invisible wall around me. Like I was something people didn't want to touch. Or be seen near. Lila walked in 10 minutes late. She laughed at something her friend said. Then glanced at me. Our eyes met for 1 second. She didn't flinch. Didn't look guilty. Didn't look sorry. Just blank. Like I was a stranger now. And maybe I was. Because the girl who once trusted her no longer existed. I stayed quiet through the entire lecture. Eyes on my notebook. But I wasn't writing anything. My mind was just noise. When the bell rang, I waited. Let everyone leave first. I didn't want to brush shoulders with anyone. But just as I picked up my bag, I heard it. Two girls near the door. Talking. Not whispering, not anymore. Lila told me everything yesterday. She made it sound like a funny story. I didn't know it was actually true. My heart stopped. They didn't know I was still inside. Didn't know their words were slicing right through me. One of them laughed. She tells everyone's secrets like it's her hobby. That poor girl. I feel bad for her, honestly. And just like that, there was no more doubt. No more excuses to protect her. She didn't just share my secret. She used it as entertainment. My pain was her punchline. And I knew then, this wasn't just betrayal. It was cruelty. I found her by the lockers after class. Laughing. Smiling. As if nothing happened. I stood there, watching her from a few steps away. My hands were cold. My chest was tight. But I was done hiding. Lila. She turned, surprised. Hey. What's up? That fake voice. That fake smile. You told them, didn't you? I said. Her smile faded, just for a second. Then came back, smaller, more nervous. What are you talking about? Don't lie to me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just stood still and stared at her. You said it was safe with you. You swore. She rolled her eyes. Oh my God, you're overreacting. It's not that deep. Not that deep? My secret. My life. Turned into a joke, and it wasn't that deep? I couldn't believe it. Not just what she did, but how little it meant to her. You didn't just break my trust, I whispered. You destroyed it. She shrugged. People talk. It's not that serious. Get over it. And just like that, whatever part of me still hoped she cared, died. I didn't say anything else. There was nothing left to say. I turned and walked away. Step by step. Each one heavier than the last. She didn't follow me. She didn't call my name. Because people like Lila don't feel guilt. They feel attention. And I had stopped giving her that. By the time I reached the back courtyard, my legs felt weak. But I kept walking. Until I found the bench near the fence. The one no one ever used. And I sat there. Alone. I stared at the ground. At the small cracks in the pavement. At the fallen leaf by my shoe. Anything, to avoid looking at my reflection in the window beside me. Because I didn't recognize myself anymore. Not the girl who trusted too easily. Not the girl who believed someone like her could be safe. Not the girl who stayed quiet even when everything inside her was screaming. I didn't cry. Not this time. I just sat still and felt everything break quietly inside me. That night, I didn't eat. I didn't speak. I just went to my room and shut the door. I turned my phone face down. It buzzed once, twice, 5 times. I didn't check. I didn't want to know what they were saying now, or who else had seen it. I deleted the app. The one where they were laughing at me. And for a second, I felt lighter. But then I looked in the mirror. And I didn't see myself. Just a tired girl. With red eyes. And a face that didn't look brave anymore. I stopped going to class. 1 day, then 2. Then a week. No one asked where I was. Not a message. Not a knock. The world moved on. But I stayed frozen. It's strange how fast people forget you. Once they've used up your pain for entertainment. It was late. Everyone else in the house had gone to sleep. The only sound was the ticking of the old clock in the hallway. I was curled up in bed. Blanket pulled over my head. Trying to disappear. That's when I heard it. A soft knock on my door. Sweetheart. It was my mother. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry. I just didn't have the energy to explain. She opened the door anyway. Walked in quietly. Sat on the edge of my bed. Like she used to when I was little. She didn't ask questions. Didn't push. She just placed her hand gently on my back and whispered. You don't have to tell me what happened. But whatever it is, you'll get through it. Because I know you. You've always been stronger than you think. Her voice cracked a little on the last word. And suddenly, the tears came back. Not the messy, angry ones. But the soft kind. The kind that come from being seen. And still loved. I didn't say anything. I just leaned into her. Let her hold me. And for the first time in days, I felt like maybe I wasn't completely alone. The next morning, I sat at the edge of my bed for a long time. The sun was pouring through the window. But it felt like I was still stuck in yesterday. My phone was silent. Not a single message. Not a single apology. But something my mother said kept echoing in my mind. You've always been stronger than you think. I didn't feel strong. I felt broken, humiliated, and small. But maybe strength doesn't mean feeling brave. Maybe it means showing up, even when you're terrified. So I stood up, got dressed, and packed my bag. My legs felt shaky. My heart felt heavier than ever. But I walked out the door anyway. Not because everything was okay. Not because I was healed. But because hiding hadn't saved me. And maybe facing it would. The moment I stepped onto campus, the noise came rushing back. Laughter. Chatter. Footsteps on stone. It was all the same. And yet, everything felt different. I walked slowly through the courtyard. Some people noticed me. Some didn't. One girl glanced up, whispered to her friend, and looked away quickly, like I was something awkward to step around. I kept walking. My classroom door felt heavier than usual. But I pushed it open. The room went quiet, just for a second. Not loud enough to be obvious, but just long enough for me to feel it. A few eyes turned to me. Some curious. Some uncomfortable. Lila was there. Of course she was. Still smiling. Still laughing with the same friends. She didn't look at me. Didn't have to. Because people like her. They move on fast. They don't carry the weight, they just leave it behind for people like me to hold. But I didn't stop. I walked to my seat. Sat down. And took out my notebook. Not to impress anyone. Not to prove anything. But because this was my life too. And I wasn't going to let them take it from me. That week, our professor gave us an assignment. A short presentation. Topic: Powerful moments that changed you. My stomach twisted when I read it. I almost thought about skipping it, again. But something in me said, no. Not this time. I didn't want to speak. But I needed to. So I wrote. Quietly. Late at night. Every word pulling from the ache in my chest. When it was my turn to present, the classroom was loud. People talking, scrolling, yawning. But when I stood up, the noise faded, slowly, then completely. I didn't look at Lila. I didn't need to. I looked at my paper, took a breath, and said, I used to think that staying quiet kept me safe. But sometimes, silence lets the wrong people speak for you. And one day, someone I trusted took my silence and turned it into a story I didn't write. I paused. The room was still. But I'm here now. And this time, I'm telling my story myself. That was all. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just spoke. And when I sat back down, no one laughed. No one whispered. They just listened. After I sat down, no one said a word for a while. The professor simply nodded, then called the next name on the list. But I wasn't listening anymore. My heart was still racing. But this time, not from fear. From something else. Relief. Strength. Something I hadn't felt in weeks. After class, I packed my things slowly. Expecting the usual glances, the quiet judgment. But something was different. A girl I barely knew from the back row walked past me. Paused. And said softly, "That was really brave. Thank you." She didn't wait for a reply. She just smiled and left. Then another student, someone who once laughed at the post, looked at me as he walked by. He didn't laugh this time. He just looked, guilty. Maybe even sorry. And I realized then, I hadn't just told my story. I had taken it back. not to make them feel bad, not to prove them wrong, but to remind myself that my voice was still mine. It's strange how one secret can change everything, how one moment can tear your world apart. But now I know something I didn't know before. I am not my past. I am not what they said about me. I am not the girl who broke down in the bathroom, or the one who stayed silent in class. I'm the girl who stood back up. The girl who spoke, even when her voice trembled. The girl who walked through shame and came out stronger. Lila never apologized. She never looked me in the eye again. But that's okay, because I wasn't looking for an apology anymore. I was looking for me. And I found her again. So if you've ever been hurt, if someone ever took something private and turned it into public pain, just remember this. You are not weak because it broke you. You are strong because you're still here. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is speak the truth they tried to bury. Even if your voice shakes, even if your heart breaks, speak it anyway. Because your story, it still belongs to you.